Hey, buddy. You're a little goober, you know that? Your little eye boogers. Did you not go through makeup? You're impossible.
You're impossible.
You're impossible. Whatever. Alright. You ready? You ready, buddy? Yeah. Hello, my name is Chris, and this is my wife Monica, and our little monkey Apollo.
Hi, Apollo.
He's really a dog, not a monkey. But we just wanted to bring to your attention that we had suffered quite an incident this past weekend. Basically, we had a heat stroke in the family. Well, it was something that we went through, but we didn't know was happening when it happened, basically. We were taking our dogs to the dog park, and next thing you know, one of our dogs just drops. That would be this dog right here. And I don't know if you can see it, but his skin his hair has been shaved because of this. But I'll get to that here shortly. Basically, we're at the dog park. He was there maybe 10 minutes and then just fell. Well, we thought he was joking. And the picture here kind of explains why we thought that. Because it couldn't have been more perfect timing that as soon as he was done playing with the dogs, he came, I put the leash on him to kind of pull him to where we were, and next thing you know, he just drops down. So we're thinking he's joking, that he's like, I'm depressed, just almost like a teenager, just acting out. Well, that was not the case, because then when I started pulling him a little bit, he got up and started walking. Granted, it was a little slower than we expected. So we were thinking he was still acting out a little bit. Well, we got him to where we were going to sit, and he drops again. We're like, what in the world's going on? So I thought he's still acting out. Well, eventually I start giving him a treat. He eats it, but kind of in a daze. Well, I take a ball and I throw it. He runs after it, but he runs very wobbly. On his way back, he ran more wobbly and dropped again. At this point, we're like, okay, something ain't right. There's something seriously wrong. Because we put water in the bowl. Like I said, we weren't there but 10 minutes when all this was happening. We put water in his bowl. He literally moved his head to the bowl and just kind of dunked it in there. And at that point, we knew something was not right. Well, to kind of sum up from here, from this point, I had to carry him out of the park, and we rushed him to the emergency room because we were not sure what was happening. I thought it might have been a concussion. I thought maybe he hit his head on another dog's head, and that he just got all wobbly. Well, come to find out, when we got there, he had a heat stroke. And the thing about that is, a heat stroke, I'm not entirely sure what the temperature is that it can start, but they were telling me that at 105 degrees, that's basically where brain damage occurs. When they measured his temperature, it was 109. At that point, when I heard that and I knew that's what was going on, I broke down because I carried him in there. He's practically, I don't want to say lifeless, but he was barely moving. And he started evacuating his bowels on my pants because he just was so hot. They eventually moved him into the back and immediately started cooling him down. Ice packs, wet towel, put him on oxygen, and they began cooling him down. Well, I go back there because they needed help controlling him. I guess he got a little, they said rabid. My guess is instincts were kicking in for him. and he was not loving the situation. And I completely understand. I mean, look at this guy. Does this look rabid? I mean, it's just about as far from rabid as you can get. Well, eventually I went back there and I held him and held the oxygen to him and just kept telling him how stubborn he is and how he's going to pull through it. And next thing I know, the doctor came to me and said, there's a very high chance he is not going to make it because of how high his temperature was. And even if they managed to get his body temperature down, that he could still die because of lack of brain function, organ damage, all sorts of different things. Well, what it boils down to is I'm sitting there holding this dog's face with the oxygen, and next thing I know, I start seeing his eyes just shaky, and I'm like, this is not good because there's something seriously wrong. Well, at that point, I'm thinking he has brain damage based on what she was telling me. Well, the whole time he kept pulling his head out of the oxygen tube, and I thought he was trying to get a good look at me, but his head just kept going off to the side, like he just didn't know where he was, what he was doing. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that, even my wife can attest, I started breaking down to the point where I knew this was it. I knew he was done, and that I was seeing his last moments. And so, I mean, I couldn't hide my feelings. It was heartbreaking. And I don't know why it hit me so hard, but I can tell you a lot of it probably had to do with how young he was. Because we did not expect it. We did everything that we normally do. We gave them water, we gave them food. There was nothing that spelled out this was going to be our day. Well, eventually, they get him cooled down, and they get him medicine, and he starts to show some improvement, at least in the body temperature part. But his eyes, his reactions, it seriously sounded like he was gone. Because he didn't respond to his name, he didn't respond to much of anything. I know, buddy, I know.
And it was just a waiting game.
Yeah, and it was a waiting game, and they basically told us, they're like, hey, you might want to just try to go home. Because there's not a whole lot you can do, and it just gets harder if you sit and watch, especially if he doesn't make it, if he starts going south. I mean, I wanted to be there, but I knew it was probably the right thing to do so they didn't have to be concerned about how I would react so they could do their job.
We went home.
So we went home, and a couple hours go by. I'd say a couple, more like probably about 5 hours go by. We get a call. They were like, you need to come get this dog. we're like, what? So yeah, he keeps running around and begging for food. And I'm like, are they seriously telling me my dog got better to the point where he's annoying them? I mean, it was just the funniest thing because we were convinced he was done. But we get there. He couldn't go home right away because he still had the shaky eye thing going a little bit. And he was very wobbly when he walked. And he started having issues with his blood, having poor clot times, which basically just means that if he would have been cut, he would have been bleeding out. So they didn't feel comfortable taking him home or sending him home at that moment. Well, we were like, okay, we understand, and we completely agree. We don't want to risk something. So, about another 12 hours goes by.
Haven't heard from the doctor.
We hadn't heard anything yet, and we call them, and they basically tell us that he's good to go. They were just waiting on one more blood test to see how he was doing. And I kid you not, when we show up there, he is back to himself. He's hyper, he's full of energy.
And he sat very well listening to the doctor.
It was very comedic because the doctor's sitting there telling us what's going on, and he sits down and he's like, "Oh, really? Oh, that's great. Okay, I'll remember that." And he was seriously just listening to the whole thing. Well, here he is now. You would never guess he had a heat stroke by looking at him.
I really hope he's back to 40 pounds.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too. He lost 5 pounds from his last vet visit in this whole ordeal, but he is he's bounced back in a miracle, in a miraculous way.
Tongue out and everything.
Tongue out and everything, because this little, I don't know if you can see it, but his tongue usually sticks out about just a little bit, and it's just so goofy. But the whole point of this is we wanted to kind of bring out that you need to pay attention to your animals, because you may not think something's wrong. Like I said, we thought he was just being contrary, just being a little turd, and we laughed about it. But when we realized something was wrong, we felt horrible. So we want to let everybody know that you have to pay attention to what's going on, because it could be a matter of life and death. If it weren't for us eventually saying, okay, something ain't right, this little guy would not be here right now. We would have, because the thing is, I almost didn't take him to the emergency room. I almost took him to the place further down the road, closer to our house.
And we were gonna make another stop along the way to drop off the other dog.
Yeah,
first.
We were gonna make multiple stops, and that could have been the end for him. And it just so happened we were on our way, and we were like, you know what? Screw it. We have to take him somewhere close by and get him looked at, because it ain't right. And I think we got him there just in the nick of time. So, once again, the whole point of this is, if you see something like that, no matter what the temperature is outside, just keep an eye on your animals, because it could have something to do with his fur being just jet black, that he just absorbed more heat than other dogs and just was running around like crazy, and in turn overheated because of him being himself.
We should pay attention to the other dog.
Yeah, and we should. And we pay attention to the other dog, but she's somewhere around here. You're not going to see her in the camera. You can probably hear her. And now you hear her drinking. But just keep an eye on him. I mean, you think the little one's got infinite energy, and he's the first one down. And we almost lost a family member, and it was incredibly devastating, because he had not lived a life. I mean, it was not fair to him.
He's only 6 months.
He literally turned 6 months just this past weekend. So keep an eye on your pets. Make sure they're hydrated. If you take them out, just bring water. We had water, we just didn't put it down in time apparently. But you gotta just keep an eye on certain signs. If they are doing stuff they normally would never do, be cautious of that. Because you never know. You could lose a pet just because you don't know. So I just wanted to share this message and show that this little guy is back to being himself. I mean, he's in
a
big,
little mellow right now.
He's in big baby mode, which this is normal. I don't want you to get that twisted. This is actually normal for him when he's being a cuddle bug. But just
he's a sweet boy.
Yeah, he's a sweet boy, and we almost lost him. So just keep an eye on him. If something don't seem right, do what you got to do. Do the right thing. Take him, get him looked at, get him checked out. It's better to be safe than sorry, because you could be burying them. And I can tell you, I did not want to have to do that. Not when we thought we were going to have fun. So, with all that being said, where's our other dog? I don't know if you can see that. She's trying to get in the shot. But
You gonna bring her
come here, Rip. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come say hi. Come say hi. Up here. Up here. Come on. Come on. And she's running away. Anyway, so just be cautious. Keep an eye out. Keep them safe. They depend on us, and you just do what you got to do for your loved ones, even the furry ones, especially the furry ones. So, all right, well, that's been our little message. I hope it's helpful, and
See you later.
see you later. Bye, Apollo.
Say bye
Can you
bye.
give kisses? No, you're just gonna breathe all over me. All right,
He's
bye.